Hey, welcome back everyone. It's me, Mr. 4Cap Scaler. This is part 2 of my NBA 2K18 PlayStation 4 Pro native 4K HDR version. Xbox One X will support this as well as soon as the console launches in November. But for right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play through a couple of matches here. Just random match I'll choose, and we're going to go ahead and examine to see how well those custom picture settings that I implemented into Samsung KS-8000 and TCL, which is on my left hand side over here. We're gonna go ahead and compare both side by side to see how well they stack up. Keep in mind, Samsung KS-8000 has a higher peak brightness nits, the highest peak brightness nits that HDR needs and requires, and also has the wide color gamut. However, it doesn't have great uniformity due to lack of local dimming zones. So anyway, let's continue. Let's do just a random match. We'll click over here. We'll click play now. We'll choose, let's see, Golden State Warriors versus Lakers. Yeah, let's do that. Why not? Or maybe we can choose, how about Indiana Pacers versus Golden State Warriors? How about that? Let's do that. And again, here we go, Rachel Demita. She's always in the 2K series as a pre-show, and of course we got one and only Shaquille O'Neal as the commentator in the pre-game show. I kind of enjoy this while the game is loading. You know, it's a kind of like a cool addition. Here we go. So let's start. It really looks great, honestly. The detail that I'm seeing here right now is truly remarkable. And again, this really comes to the advantage of higher peak brightness that Samsung KS-8000 it's utilizing here. High peak brightness and wide color gamut, it's really important for HDR. For HDR to truly give you that look and feel of what you should be experiencing with high dynamic range. Dolby Vision really needs that peak brightness. So even though Dolby Vision it's 12-bit and higher, however they decompress it to 10-bit with that peak brightness. I think with the QLED you might, if Samsung was smart enough, if Samsung would utilize Dolby Vision on QLED, I think the Dolby Vision would definitely benefit from 2000 peak brightness nits and up with that higher peak clarity of brightness. Now, when we talk about peak brightness, I just want to kind of regurgitate. I want to like rehash this really quick. When we talk about peak brightness, we're not talking about like contrast, like blasting into your face. We're talking about a level of detail that you're going to see throughout contrast color. Have you ever looked at the sun with sunglasses? And it's kind of like that. So you can see that peak brightness with the detail. Okay. One of these days I'm going to do a separate video on HDR and explain HDR for like half an hour, like in basic terms, so that people kind of have basic understanding on what HDR consists of. But before we start this, let me just show you again, if you missed my previous video, let me show you my settings here really quick on Samsung KS-8000. Okay, backlit, contrast has to be maximum, brightness has to be at 50, sharpness 0, color 55, smart LEDs high, dynamic contrast off, color tone standard, and gamma at 0, and color space at native. For more information of this calibration, you guys can go check out my previous video. Everything will be explained there. We are going to switch back to TCL as well. This is just me checking out the Samsung KS-8000 first. All right. It really looks great. It truly does, man. I don't know how much better can it get on the Xbox One X, honestly. I don't think we're going to see a drastic difference between PlayStation 4 Pro and the Xbox One X. But I'm going to compare them anyway. This looks beautiful, man. Okay, let's do it. Come on. Pass it, come on. Here we go. I'm in a white jersey, by the way. Come on, Curry, pass that. What are you doing? This looks, I mean, it looks real. I mean, the best way I can explain it, it looks like real. It looks as if you're like playing it almost looks as if you're watching the real game, honestly. If I walked in the room and if I didn't see somebody with a controller, I would most likely think that somebody's watching a game. So this is definitely a great year for sports fans. They're gonna get a lot of sports games in 4K and HDR, which is great, honestly. Okay, let's check the replay. Let's go through a replay. Let's look at the replay. There's Steph Curry right there. It looks amazing, dude. You guys need to try these custom picture settings that I have utilized. Try them out. Let me know what you guys think. I mean, you really need to try them out, because it is really difficult for you to see what I'm talking about when you're watching it through YouTube video, and especially me recording it through camera. This is why I do calibrations, my own custom picture settings calibration. This is why I do these videos. This is why I adjust my custom picture settings, so that you guys can write it down and check it out for yourself. Obviously, I expected this to look great on Samsung KS-8000, because Samsung KS-8000, it's a perfect TV for HDR. It has peak brightness, 1000 nits, wide color gamut, quantum dot, nanocrystals. So obviously it's going to look the greatest, the best on this TV. But this is also a very expensive TV. You're looking $1,200, $1,500, or I think $1,600 or $1,500. Most likely you can get it for like $1,500, or if you're lucky for $1,300. But still, it's above $1,000. Okay, and TCL it's $600. Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and keep it like this, and I'm going to switch back to TCL. So we're going to jump into TCL 55-inch P605 model. Okay, so here we are now on TCL 55 P605 model. Keep in mind, this is a cheaper TV, a budget TV. We're looking at roughly $600 compared to Samsung KS-8000. But even with this budget TV, this is a great example. Even with the budget TV, this TV, one thing it has going for it, obviously, it's the 72 local dimming zones, and it's just better. Like, you see more in the distance, you see much better. You have almost like a three-dimensional field of view, if you know what I mean. Like, you get to see things up in the background, and that's one of the unique features about local dimming zones, full array of local dimming zones, and this thing looks really great. The calibrations, I will show you my custom picture settings that I used for this thing. They're pretty much the same thing that I used on my previous video. I highly encourage you guys to see my previous video if you missed it. Hold on. Let me show you the settings really quick. Here they are. Alright, so nothing has changed. Everything's the same here. TV brightness has to be bright. In order for you to take the advantage of HDR, you have to have TV brightness at bright. HDR mode, excuse me, HDR mode has to be at bright. So TV brightness at bright and HDR mode at bright, because you are using an HDR signal. Picture mode again, HDR bright. Always keep HDR bright. Local dimming, local contrast, you want to always keep this at high. You never touch this. You always leave this at high, no matter what. Once you set it at high, never touch it again. That's the whole point why you bought this TV. It's because of the local dimming zones. 72 to be exact. Down here, it'll always be like this once HDR mode is activated. On every TV, it will be like this. This is what HDR needs in order to function properly. It's got to have backlit to maximum, and it's got to have contrast to maximum to achieve that peak brightness. Why brightness is 50? Because the whole idea of HDR, it's not to crush the deep dark levels, but to keep them at a constant level of detail. So when you look at the shadow, you can look at the shadow as detailed as they are. When you look here in the background, you can still see people in the background. That's the whole idea. It's not to crush the deep dark levels. And why would you want to crush the deep dark levels? If you move this brightness below 50, you will crush the deep dark levels. You never touch this. This is why you have your local dimming at high. Local contrast, local dimming at high. You don't need to mess. A couple of things you don't want to mess with here. Your gamma, leave your gamma alone at 2.2 and leave your local dimming at high. And the third brightness, don't ever touch it. Leave it at 50. So when you're watching in HDR, it should always be like this. Those three, always like this. Never mess with this. Leave it like this. Sharpness, I like to keep it at 0. People ask me why 0. Couple of reasons. Number one, you already have that native 4K pixel density and nice uniformity on this TV. So the outline, it's as sharp as it gets. So why would you want to over sharpen and over outline your sharpness? Leave it at 0. Okay? You don't want to mess around with sharpness too much when you're watching a native 4K content. You already have that 4K pixel density. No reason for you to mess around with sharpness. Leave it at 0. If you want to truly appreciate the 4K detail, leave it at 0. And don't take my word for it. You can check this out with the other professional calibrators. They'll tell you the same thing. Color 55. People ask me, why 55? Why can't you go 70? Why can't you go 80? I've seen people do 70. I've seen people do 80. A couple of reasons. Number one, the whole idea of you enjoying a 4K HDR, it's to enjoy full potential of detail, natural color detail. Like this jersey looks natural. It's not oversaturated. That's the whole purpose, man. You don't want to oversaturate your colors. I've seen people move it up to 80 to 90. I was like, are you kidding me? You got to leave it at 55. I would say between 50 to 55. I like to leave it at 55. Okay? So, there, color at 55. Color temperature, I already said this. I keep it at normal. I like to keep the tone of color between yellow and blue to a middle in between. So I always leave it in normal. So that's my settings for TCL. Okay, now let's do some gameplay here. I've shown you enough of the replay. Let's do some gameplay here. Let's continue. I mean, it looks almost as if like you're watching a. It's almost like you're watching a real game. Now, what are the two key differences that I see here? Well, obviously the peak brightness is the first thing you're going to notice less here. This TV only has 700 nits compared to 1400, because the Samsung KS-8000 can go up to 1400 nits, and of course the quantum dot technology that brings the white color gamut even more in a high ratio. So that's pretty much in a nutshell the difference between these two TVs. But that's something you expect, because this is a cheaper TV. It's a budget TV. You know, you cannot expect this TV to be like super high end, you know, because you're paying $600. I paid $500 for it, but for $500 this is pretty darn good TV. When I went in to buy this TV, I knew going in that this TV is not going to have that peak brightness that I need. But one thing I was expecting is that full local array of dimming, which this TV does have, and it's a huge difference. And it's something that Samsung KS-8000 it's lacking. If Samsung KS-8000 had that full array of local dimming with 1400 peak brightness nits and that quantum dot technology nanocells, it would be the best TV there is for 4K. Dolby Vision would shine, HDR would shine. It would be a perfect TV. But this still looks great, people. If you want to purchase a 4K TV this holiday and you're on a budget, you're already spending $500 on the Xbox One X, and you don't want to spend any more than that, you want to spend another, let's say your limit is $1,000. Okay, you saved $1,000 and you're looking to buy an Xbox One X and a 4K TV. I can't enough highly recommend this combo, this TV and the Xbox One X. The reason being is because you are getting the best of the both worlds. You're getting already HDR, you're getting Dolby Vision, and on top of that, you're getting 72 local dimming zones that's truly going to help that 4K and HDR shine. However, you're not going to have that peak brightness, but even with OLED, you're not going to have that peak brightness. You know what I'm saying? Only with the Samsung TVs and Sony TVs are you going to be experience that peak brightness. You know, like with Z90 or Panasonic S, those are the ones that have a little bit of a higher peak brightness. I think Panasonic S1000 has like what, 800, which is good for an OLED, honestly. But look, the best TV right now. Okay, the best TV you can get, it's Z90, Sony. I mean, everybody knows that, you know. But this is what I'm trying to say here, guys. This is a great combo. What I'm trying to say, this is an excellent combo to get. That's what I'm trying to tell you here. And you're definitely going to appreciate that with this TV. Look at Steph Curry, man. Look at that. The detail on Look, my camera here, honestly, it's not doing justice until you see this in person. It really is remarkable. I mean, hands down, this is one of the best basketball games that you're going to be able to play. And if you have a really good 4K TV with HDR, you're going to be in heaven. Now, someone told me that there's these cables called the M cables that have this chip inside that helps make all your existing content looks even better. It makes 4K looks 100 times sharper and more vivid. This is what I heard. I haven't tried it. I might try it. I might give it a try. But I did hear about the M cables. You can see every and each individual sweat here. Let me move my low light a little bit. I don't know if you guys can see it. Look at this detail, man. It's just ridiculous. Like, look, you can see every and each entire pore of sweat here on Steph Curry. That's how ridiculously good it looks. And of course, full array local dimming really helps this picture make it look more three-dimensional depth of field, because now you have those perfect deep dark levels. Now you have very good balanced color. It's not oversaturated. And once you have everything properly customized and calibrated, you truly are going to like enjoy, even on this TV, you're going to enjoy this game. Alright, so this is Mr. 4K Upscaler. This is the end of the video. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you.